listen only mode.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Cooking with Bryson. I am joined today by Ellen McCullough. The charity for this episode is going to be Black Girls Code. So please post your donation, share them with us privately if you want to remain anonymous. And as always, tag us. The tag for the show is Chef Bryson, or I'm actually working a new one because I'm thinking about changing the name of the show. So Ellen, you get to be the first one to tell me if this is a good or a bad idea. But I'm thinking about changing this to Unicorn Chef. And then everybody who comes on is just another member, chef of the herd of unicorn chefs.
I love it.
You like it? All right. So I'll be working on in this very amateurly done show that we're just highlighting good folks doing things to make the kitchen more accessible and having fun at the same time. We'll work on doing that. So Ellen, first of all, what are we drinking?
Oh, okay. So we are drinking tonight a watermelon gin and tonic. It's something that I created. I'm sure I'm not the first person to create it, but I created it a few years ago. I take watermelon, like cubed watermelon, and I blend it up in like a, what do you call it? Like a personal blender, a small blender, whatever blender you have, with a little bit of water and a little bit of rose water. And it makes a really nice floral. I keep this, when I'm done using it the first time, I pop a little bit of vodka in it, and it helps it keep in the fridge. So it'll separate, and all you gotta do is give it a shake and pour it to your drink. So I do like 1 part gin, 1 part watermelon puree, and tonic. And Saint Germain is really good in it too.
Since I forgot, for the audience that I'm looking at right now and I was just interacting with, please post your questions in the chat app Q&A. I see some returning members, so I think they know how to do it, but just in case you forgot, make sure you're doing that. I am drinking a Shiraz, and nice. Let's go. What are we doing?
All right, sounds good. So first we're gonna start with the sweet potatoes. So I have 2 sweet potatoes, and I'm just gonna give them a good peel. My little trick for peeling potatoes and whatnot, because I hate to stand over the garbage can because it kind of smells sometimes. I mean, whose garbage can doesn't smell? I put a paper plate on the counter, and then that way I just peel it over the plate and then I just throw the plate away. You could always do it over another plate, like a regular plate, but.
So my way of describing anything that I don't like to do a lot of effort for, like peeling potatoes, is I call it rustic style. So my potatoes are rustic. I've already cubed them and I left the skin on.
I love it. There you go. Rustic
Doesn't
style.
sound fancy. It's rustic style and not lazy.
I love it. So one thing, it's funny that you say that. The one thing that I learned when I was kind of first learning how to cook, because I didn't know really how to cook. Like my parents made kind of, the usual fare when I was a kid, but so when I got older, the way I learned how to cook like kind of more fancier stuff was from watching the Food Network. So I would turn on the Food Network and then I would just watch literally all day, and I would find a recipe or two that I liked, and I would go out and I would buy the ingredients, and then I would cook it, and that kind of built up my confidence in cooking, and that's kind of what I attribute to it. It's just a lot of practice and a lot of I don't know, willingness to experiment. But in any case, Alton Brown was one of my favorites.
I love Alton Brown.
He's one of my favorites. I think it's the whole mix of like science and everything. And so so he said one time, I can't remember if it was on Iron Chef or if it was on one of his other shows, but he said, we don't call it burnt, we call it over caramelized. So I've never burnt anything in my life. I've only ever over caramelized it. So my trick too with these sweet potatoes is I cut them in half because they're round and funny. And then I like sliced them like this. And then it kind of makes it easier to rustically cube them. Because I haven't been to cooking school.
I appreciate that. Rustically cubing them. I like it. It's now an adverb. It's an adjective.
There you go.
Maybe this should be the rustic unicorn for the cooking show.
Yes, I'm here for it. Rustic unicorn. That kind of goes with the fact that, you know, sometimes it can be a little bit of a hot mess. So is that like a rustic mess?
There you go. You're a rustic mess. You're just old countryside now.
There you go. Definitely. All right. So,
So why did you pick this recipe?
oh, I love breakfast. And honestly, I love sweet potatoes. And so sweet potatoes are really commonly only done like at Thanksgiving, or, you know, people mostly eat them like one or two different ways. Like my family, we do the like pecan crusted baked sweet potatoes in the holidays. And, you know, I know people that do the marshmallows on top and everything. For some reason, that's too sweet for me. I can't, it's a little bit too sweet for me typically. So when I learned about savory sweet potatoes and I started experimenting with them, it was amazing. So this recipe in particular, it has a fried egg on the top, and there's sausage, and so you get a lot of like salty, there's rosemary in it. So there's salty, herbs, sweet, I mean, you name it. So it's a really good, mix of flavors. And that's what I really love. I mean, simple stuff is really good, but I love to have, you know, a lot of different stuff going on, as long as they all kind of marry well together.
All right, so we're turning on our stove and putting in some oil.
Yes. So I got the stove on a little over medium. I don't know if I'd quite call it medium high, but a little over medium. I think that was my biggest challenge when you invited me on the show, was you asked me for a recipe, and I like never measure anything. So I'm like, is this a cup or is it a tablespoon? Because I just kind of go by sight.
So this is I'm going on about 20 episodes now, and it's really funny seeing the themes from all of the different cooks. And some of the common themes are one, the difference of cooking versus baking. I just throw things together versus science. The second, I never measure anything. Like the measurements for this, like you made me give you a recipe, and suddenly I had to figure out like how much so somebody else knows what it is. And exactly. That's cooking. Like we're just rusticizing things here together. And
we're just
rusticizing, and it's just all of it. As long as it's cooked and you don't go get sick, we're good to go.
Exactly. I always kind of my little, when I tell people, because you know, people will ask me, what's your recipe for this? And I'm like, I don't know. And it won't be the same next time. I've made potato salad several times and it's been great each time, but I never write it down, so I can't remember exactly what I did. But you know, I tell people do this and this and this, and at the bottom I'm like, but I'm not your real mom. Like, do whatever you want. I'm not your real mom. Experiment. Like, I think one of my favorite stories is so I always cook usually with my fiance. It's actually like really weird that I'm cooking by myself tonight, but so I've kind of taught him how to cook like over the years, and sometimes he'll go to the store and he like doesn't know what to get, or he'll ask me or whatever. And so one time when I was making like a cheese ball type of thing for Christmas, I asked him to buy me a wheel of brie, and he bought me one of those like Laughing Cow, like the wedges.
Oh yeah, the little ones.
Yeah, and so he brought it home, and I'm like, well, it's not right, but it's not entirely wrong. So I'm not mad. So I'm just like, all right, go with it. And so I just kind of opened them all up and kind of like put them all into a ball and then wrapped them up. And it was so good. I think it was better than the first one. So I might change the recipe. So, you know, I'm just like, play around and experiment. There's really no wrong answer. As long as you like it, who cares?
Well, and so that's the third part of the themes of these shows is, of course, there is a pandemic going on. We don't have access to all of the gadgets or all of the foods. And some of the shows, some folks have gone with some unique appliance requirements, and we always talk about alternates for that. And there have been a couple of shows where there have been some ingredients, and it's like, I have no idea where to get that. And So just like this one, this is my own modification of what you gave me. So I already had some andouille sausage, so I'm using that instead of ground sausage. And
Yeah.
prepped it by already cooking around. So all I got to do is just finish it at the end because I read the recipe on what I got to do. And
Yeah.
we'll have two different things. And this is why I always encourage everybody at home, share what you cook as well, because I think it's so neat to see how everybody makes the same dish and seeing the same dish look so different from everybody.
Right. Yeah, and the first time I was making it, I was already thinking of modifications. Like, I'm also a huge fan of pumpkin. And so I think a really fun alternative would be to use pumpkin instead of sweet potatoes.
So that's funny you were saying that. I was thinking, because one of my favorite things to make in the fall is butternut squash.
Oh, yeah.
And so the thing with butternut squash, though, is it's not going to hold its shape the same way that a sweet potato is. And so I
Right.
started thinking about a recipe that I make where I take butternut squash, I roast it, and I make butternut squash dumplings. And so there's a dish that's very similar to this where I make butternut squash dumplings. I would finish it with sausage like this, and then I would also add some kind of green like Swiss chard or something.
Yeah. That sounds fantastic. Also, acorn squash. Acorn squash is really good.
And that would hold its shape the same way that sweet potatoes would.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I cut red peppers, if anybody's interested in my tips and tricks, I take the red pepper and I stick my thumb down and I pop the top down and I just rip it in half. I actually feel like it wastes less of like the little top part and you get more of the red pepper.
So I'm throwing my sweet potatoes in on my iron skillet.
Sounds good. Cover them up, put the sweet potatoes in the skillet. Let me see if I can with the heavy skillet. So you put your sweet potatoes in the skillet, cover them up, and then just let them sit. You don't have to stir them.
We're starting.
And then in the meanwhile, you can chop your red peppers rustically. And onions and garlic. To be honest, most of the time I use garlic powder just because it's faster and I work and I go to school and everything. So on a weeknight and everything, it's just so much faster to use powdered garlic, especially if you get a decent powdered garlic. You can't really tell the difference.
Have you ever used the pre-diced garlic before?
Oh yeah, that too. Sorry, we're getting feedback.
Right. What is going on here? Sorry, I got some computer thing happening.
No, that's okay. Oh, it's here.
There we go. We're back. Okay. We're back on track. Okay. So you are currently a student, correct?
Yes, sir. I am a student. I am finishing up my bachelor's. It is in cybersecurity, and I'm working towards kind of a minor focus in project management because I'm really good with people. My warm and winning personality.
So this will actually give you one educational credit toward managing people certificate.
All right. I'm excited. That'll work.
Asterisk unicorns. So this is all right. Clearly, I am now, because of quarantine, literally a graybeard. When I was going to school in the 90s, there was no such thing as cybersecurity. There was no degree in cybersecurity. Your options were computer science or electrical engineering. That's all that existed. And so, what is a degree in cybersecurity today?
So a lot of it, you have to do all the, your usuals like you would in every other degree, all your core classes and whatnot. But I think what a lot of them do is, they take a lot of the computer science stuff. And then as far as cybersecurity goes, I've had classes that aren't exactly, I don't want to say like follow a linear path with it, but they'll kind of, like, I'll take ethical hacking classes and some that expose me to the knowledge base for CISSP, even though that's kind of a while off. But yeah, just stuff like that. working on introducing the concepts of securing what you're learning about, so like networking and then network security. And then more like I'm back in a routing and switching class again. So at least in my program, I get a lot of the fundamentals as well as, security concepts.
Okay.
So it's been good. I kind of grew up around computers and never really thought that I would end up doing it for a living. And I always liked them. And, I was always fascinated, but I think I got caught up in the, like, you're a girl and you don't want to be a nerd kind of thing. And so I just kind of, not that I wouldn't have been encouraged, because one of my parents is an uber nerd. So, yeah, so I think when I decided to do cybersecurity, I became like the favorite daughter.
So you mentioned that you're learning ethical hacking in your degree. What does that mean? Are we tackling the technical, the ethical side? And I don't like not repeating it, but like the ethics of hacking, mix of both?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of both. They do tackle the ethics. I'm gonna check on my potatoes here really quick because they smell like they might be caramelizing.
Well, that's the advantage you get from letting them sit, right? They're gonna sit there. They're going to build up that crust.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think it's been 8 minutes, but I felt the need to.
We don't count numbers here.
No rules.
Yep, it was definitely time to move them.
So we talk about the ethics. Like you never want to perform a penetration test without permission and all that kind of stuff. But then on the other hand, there's a lot of labs. We'll use a lot of virtualization, especially since I'm not in an on-campus program. There is a lot of virtualization and labs and whatnot working on exploiting different things. So yeah, a little bit of both.
So what are you learning about hacking specifically? Like, I apologize. This is probably ironic that I'm asking like really basic questions, but it's because I literally do not know anything about this.
Yeah.
Like so, I have decades of experience in offensive security, and I know nothing about what they teach in offensive security in a bachelor's degree.
Yeah. So we'll learn about sometimes the assignment or whatever will be about researching a certain vulnerability or researching a certain exploit. I think I had a whole assignment or maybe a discussion or something one time on Stuxnet. Some of the bigger attacks and stuff that kind of continues to rear its ugly head. So a lot of it is research, and then we do have I'm sorry, I'm off camera. and then there's the technical lab side of it as well.
Okay, so you're researching a particular vulnerability. What do you? I mean, I assume you're not like mapping the static. Are you doing static analysis? The code? Are you doing dynamic analysis to understand exactly where and how it's moving through memory? Or is it more like understanding the history of it and sort of at a high level technically what it's doing in like a system level?
Yeah, so it's a lot of it is kind of the history of it. It could be because I'm still working towards, I think you would call me like in my junior year. So I'm just kind of starting to get into the more advanced classes. So I think some of the lower level classes were a little bit more conceptual and started to introduce all that technical stuff. But then, as it goes forward, it keeps getting more and more technical, but there is still a lot of writing involved to kind of teach you how to research and write technically and, reporting type of stuff. I have also been, in the spring, I started participating in National Cyber League, which is a really cool collegiate capture the flag. And that was a really cool way to start, more in-depth testing, and hacking.
Well, let's start by treating you as the expert on bachelor's degrees in this space. And
Yes.
what have you learned that you would give as advice to the teenage you, right? Somebody else who's looking to follow in your footsteps.
Yeah. I would say, if you want to follow in my footsteps, just get your hands on as much technology as you can. So when I was a kid, like I said, I was exposed to computers and everything, and I've always had a curiosity for it, at least a base curiosity for it. So whenever anybody had a new gadget or anything like that, like, let me see it, and whenever I would get a new gadget, I would get a hold of it. I would go through like every menu. I would read the user manual back to cover to cover.
Did you read it rustically?
I would read it rustically, yes, to get a rustic knowledge of what's going on. So yeah, because I found in my life that there's so many people that have their phones or their computers or whatever, and they'll ask me how to do something, or I'll say, hey, don't you know that you can just do this? And I'm like, no, I never knew. I've had this for like 10 years and I never knew I could do this with my device. So I just say get intimately familiar with your devices and just follow the rabbit holes. If you're curious as to how something works, Google it. There's so much on the internet. There's so many good sources. Just get and stay curious, and that's gonna take you really far. I found, especially as I've met people in the InfoSec world and everything, curiosity is huge. You can have the biggest technical knowledge base in the world, but if you don't have the curiosity to keep learning and stay kind of on that, cutting edge, then eventually, technology moves fast. So stay in front of it.
So one of the criticisms of academia is it's hard to stay on the cutting edge. How are you still maintaining your currency when you're probably feeling like you're dealing with some outdated curriculum?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'm glad you asked. So it's like, I'm gonna answer that question with kind of a story, and then I'll really answer it. But when I was at my first conference last November, I found out, via Twitter. Somebody told me at one point, they said, just get on Twitter. There's so many people on Twitter. And so I said, all right, fine. And so I started building a network of people, and I started finding a lot. I mean, like that day, as soon as it happened, somebody's tweeting about it. So just like get on Twitter, look at the news, follow good people. And then I went to a conference and somebody was talking, I think it might've been Alyssa, in one of her talks. She said, this book is great, even though it's old, and it was like 5 years old. And in like any other, in so many other, industries that might not be considered old, but I sat there for a second like, no, you're right though. I mean, so much has changed in 5 years. So, make sure that you're, I try to find all the news websites and LinkedIn and everything. I just kind of try to keep in touch with people because, books and stuff like that, they can age out pretty quickly. But, getting with the right people and networking has really helped me stay in front of everything.
So what's a book you'd recommend?
A book that I would recommend? I feel like I've read nothing but textbooks lately. I gotta be honest, I don't think.
I'm gonna assume you're not recommending any of those.
No. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Like I said, I haven't read any like industry books recently other than textbooks, because usually by the time I'm done with my textbooks, my brain is all
mush. Yeah, that never changes. You're gonna get out of academia, you're getting into the workforce, and you're gonna end your day and just be like, yeah. I don't want to do anything that I was doing during the workday anymore.
Right. Well, the more difficult thing for me at this point is the fact that I basically have to code switch my brain every single day, because I don't work in InfoSec right now. I work in healthcare, and so I don't do this for 8 hours a day. So I'm in like healthcare Ellen mode, and then I come home and all right, gotta do homework time, and then for the next 4 or 5, 6 hours, however long I'm doing homework, then it's InfoSec mode, and then healthcare mode, and then InfoSec mode. So that can get exhausting, but it'll, I'm up for the challenge.
So what do you do in healthcare?
I work in a lab right now. Yeah, I just kind of prepare things, and I work with a lot of gross stuff.
Gross stuff.
Yeah, stuff that people probably don't know, other people don't want to.
Oh, I mean, we're cooking right now, so we don't want to talk about it.
No, no, we don't. That's why I was being
I can read the room. I'm good. We'll segue this way, but you work in a lab. And
Yeah.
obviously, as we've read, that there are a lot of issues going on with hospitals, medical manufacturers, and all of that. I mean, of course, there's an entire category of information, PHI, personal health information. Did I do that right? Healthcare information? Anyway, PHI, that is all around that space.
Right. Yeah, and it comes with all those, it comes with its own fun set of, regulations like HIPAA. So in addition to having to follow, anything strictly InfoSec related, you have to worry about all your healthcare legislations. And most of those are, they'll be federal and state. And depending on your industry, it's not only HIPAA, you have your specific specialty, the governing bodies and your specialties. So it's a lot to kind of keep track of. But
how much do you get to sort of cross over between what you're doing in the lab and what you have to do at school?
Basically not at all. Other than the odd, spreadsheet or something like that, or, teaching a coworker how to make a stronger password or something, it really doesn't on a day-to-day basis cross over that much. So just to give everybody an update, I took the sweet potatoes out.
All right, we're doing that. Okay.
I put them in a bowl. I got my big pan. I set it off to the side just because it's kind of screaming hot at this point. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add my onion, which I've cut. I've rustically chopped my red onion.
Yeah, I can tell you're really going to enjoy that one coming out of this episode. Whatever happens here in the next 30 minutes, you're like, yeah, but it was rustic.
It was rustic. It was rustic. All right, so I got onion. You know what? I was running my mouth, so I didn't even chop my garlic. So I'm gonna just use garlic powder today. See, I'm not my own real mom. Can you? Okay,
you can do whatever you want. It's your show.
Exactly. All right, so I got.
So we're throwing onions in?
Oh yeah, onions. Yeah, onions and garlic. And then the sausage is gonna go in too.
So I'm gonna do onions first. Since I have raw garlic, I need to let my onions caramelize before I do my garlic.
And then the sausage that I picked today was this maple sausage. I was kind of waffling between maple and sage, and I was a little nervous about the sage clashing with the rosemary.
Yep.
But I figure I'll experiment with that on another day. So the maple would be good. I mean, because it's eating breakfast for dinner, I thought maple would be a nice complement to the sweet potato. And it would also kind of give it that breakfast flavor.
That is complete kismet. I had talked earlier about how when you provided this recipe, I started thinking about butternut squash. And when I make that butternut squash dumpling recipe, I always make it with sage.
Oh, okay.
Which is just really funny that you just mentioned that.
Sage is so good. I feel like you never hear of sage other than with pork. I can't really.
Sage is another savory.
Yeah. So I'm just kind of smashing up this pork sausage with my wooden spoon here. What else? I don't want to forget. Yeah. Okay. So I hear you're doing yoga these days, Bryson.
Yes, I teach yoga Monday to Friday. Free and open to everybody.
That's awesome. I need to get back in.
Are you into yoga?
I am. I'm not very consistent at it, but I did hot yoga for a while, and it was so. I did the beginner, so it wasn't. Apparently, it wasn't as hot as like the more advanced classes, but it was really good. It was a little difficult though, because they would say, feel free to stop every, 10 minutes and wipe yourself down, but I sweat like a pig. So I'm there like in down dog, like a mess. So.
Well, you are welcome to join us. In fact, I see several people who are watching us live who have been to my classes.
Nice.
So we have a good little group. Optional if you want to put your camera on or not, because some people, of course, feel self-conscious about that. For those who put your camera on, I'm able to give feedback on the poses. We do not do anything crazy, so there's no advanced yoga.
Yeah.
We mix it up, although there's a core routine. So I kind of try to do the balance of, hey, I know what to expect. Oh, wait, that was a different thing, and that's kind of cool. So it's not just you don't get bored. And then we also do what we call master classes, where on certain classes we'll focus on particular poses. So just sort of helping people dial in particular elements to get what they can out of it.
That sounds really awesome. And even more amazing that you're doing it for free. That's fantastic.
I honestly, I can't do yoga by myself. So the fact that I can have people join me is the entire reason I do it.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
That's why I'm much better. There's so many people that can work out at home and tools to do it, but whenever I'm at home and I feel like maybe I should work out, I also sit there, okay, well, there's dishes to be done and I need to clean this and I need to put this away. So it's like I need to kind of go and and get out of it.
Yeah, the way I like to think about it is there have been some good things that have come out of this pandemic. And when everything first went sideways, I started doing a lot of virtual events because I just sensed that there was going to be a need. And
Yeah.
it was, I got a lot of positive response to that. And then just over time had to kind of take a step back for myself from it. But the yoga continues. And the cooking show was born from that.
That's fantastic. And really, on a really real note, I mean, the pandemic, as you're saying, the good things that have come out of it, it's been so good for me infosec wise, like, working full time, being a student and everything, and living a little bit far from like the next major city. It was really hard to do that kind of stuff on the weekends or, go to some of the meetups that are during the week. But, having the pandemic happen and everybody kind of moving everything virtually, I never would have been able to go to DEF CON. I never would have been able to go to, probably Circle City Con and a bunch of the other stuff that I've ended up doing so far this year. So I'm really thankful in that respect that it's really helped me, network. It's given a lot of people a lot more opportunities. As far as that goes, at least in the industry. So I'm really thankful for everybody like yourself that has worked so hard to, put out content and do things like that. So, yeah.
That's literally what I was doing all day today before I finished a little after 6 o'clock to prep for this. So today was our third annual Hack the Capitol.
I saw that.
So, no, and of course, the advantage of that is you don't, sorry, what?
Oh, no. I was going to ask you, I didn't get to read too much about it. Is it like was it a CTF or?
Oh, no, sorry. Yeah, that's funny. I had a journalist ask me that question yesterday. He was like, so I really like these hackathons. I'm like, no, it's not a hackathon. I co-founded a nonprofit called the ICS Village.
Yeah.
And we help provide education and awareness around critical infrastructure.
Right.
And we've been at DEF CON for years. We've been at a number of conferences for years. The last couple of years since we incorporated as a 501c3, a real nonprofit, we've been able to bring our stuff to a lot more folks. So we're at like, 10, 15 conferences a year.
Wow.
Real challenge this year with the quarantine to figure out how to virtualize what is primarily physical equipment. But anyway, Hack the Capitol was an idea that I came up with a couple of years ago where I was like, wait a second, I'm in DC and Tom's in Pennsylvania and the equipment's kind of in between one of those places all the time. And we're trying to educate all these folks. Wouldn't it be great if we did something focused on the policymakers? And so that's what Hack the Capitol is it's a one-day event where we invite members of Congress. So today was Representative Gallagher, Senator Hassan, and Senator Rounds giving keynotes. And then a number of experts from government officials, military, industry, academia, all talking around different issues around critical infrastructure, solely to provide education. And I don't know how well this part has worked from back when it was physical. We really made an emphasis on people building those connections so that when there was pending legislation or policy questions in the future, they'd establish those relationships with the technical community to be able to reach back out and be like, hey, what do you think about this?
Yeah, that's fantastic.
So it'll all be posted to YouTube in the next couple of weeks.
Perfect. I'm definitely gonna check it out. I didn't get to check it out today. All right, I'm adding my red bell peppers because the sausage and the onion for me are almost done cooking. You don't really want to add the red bell peppers too soon, at least not me personally, because I love the taste of bell peppers and they get too smushy. I like to have that bite. Okay, so now that the bell peppers are in there, I'm going to add some of my seasoning. So I don't know about you, but when I get rosemary, it comes like in the hard leaves. So
Wait, what is that? Oh, wait.
Rosemary
All right.
comes
Okay.
in the leaves. It's not, I mean, it's not ground. And so unless you're cooking something for a long time, I feel like sometimes I get these little rosemary leaves in my food, and that's not fun. So I just kind of made a habit of taking a mortar and pestle. Again, your mileage may vary. I'm not your real mom, but I like to grind it up just because I feel like it.
Yeah, so I do this rustic style. I just take so I have a garden and I grow, rosemary is one of the best herbs for me because I planted it once like 5 years ago and I have unlimited rosemary and it's all year round and it never dies. So I just have this huge bush of rosemary. So I was really excited that you chose rosemary because I'm like, thank you. This is a good use of it. Anyway, I just pick the pieces off and throw it in.
There you go. And yeah, if it were fresh rosemary, I'd probably do that as well. But I feel like sometimes these get a little bit hard. So I just like to grind it up a little bit. Toss it right in the pan. All right. Clean up here. Okay, so we got rosemary. What else? Paprika. I don't know why there's even like a sprinkle setting on this paprika because I just pour it into my hand.
So something I covered on a previous one, I don't remember which one, that to just make paprika a little bit more interesting sometimes, smoked paprika.
Ooh, yeah, I've been meaning to pick some up. I haven't yet, but.
Yeah, it's available at Trader Joe's. You can get it at a lot of stores. It's not necessarily more expensive, but it just has like a different twist. So it's a little more fun than just regular paprika sometimes.
Nice. I got recently, like a couple of weeks ago, I was out of town and I was at a store and they had a cranberry herb rub and I had to get it. I was so excited because I really want to put it on some turkey or something and stick it in my Traeger and smoke it. Especially the fall coming up. All right, so I put a whole bunch of ground black pepper in it. I've got salt, pepper, rosemary. I think that would give that a stir. Okay, so after the bell peppers have had a minute to hang out and get a little softer, I'm gonna add the sweet potatoes back in and stir it up. This looks so good. So starting to look cashy. I don't know.
How did you describe it?
Cashy?
Okay.
And rustic. All right, I'm gonna turn down the heat just a hair. Okay. All right, that's looking really good. So I'm gonna cover that up for just a minute. I do have a second pan here, which is what I'm gonna cook my eggs in. So I'm gonna start getting that
Wait, we're
ready.
not throwing the eggs all in one thing?
No, they go on top.
Oh, it's not a one pot meal.
It's not a one pot meal. I mean, you could if you wanted to. Remember, I'm not your real mom.
No, you are going to do whatever you want to do. I'm doing it in one pot.
I'm mountain mama, but I'm not your real mom. Dance party. All right. All right, so I'm gonna put my heat for my egg pan on, again, a little past medium. I wouldn't really call it medium high, but just a little past medium. And now's a good time to throw the spinach.
Yeah, so I just threw my spinach in and covered everything back up. So I'm going to cook my spinach down because, of course, it covers up all that volume while it's fresh.
Exactly. I don't even remember how much goes in here. Whole bag.
That amount.
That looks good. No, we had more. Okay. Yep, so I'm just gonna put the lid on so it's gonna start to wilt down. So as it's wilting, we got our egg pan. Ugh, over easy eggs are my favorite.
I'm a sunny side up guy.
Yeah. I think I don't have a problem with sunny side up. I think I just have always defaulted to over easy. Either one. The kind with the runniest yolks are my favorite. Which is why I love this, because you get they're kind of sunny side up, or you can again make them however you want. But I like them with the runny yolks because then the yolk like acts as kind of a sauce for the hash. It's so good. So you can use as many as you want. I mean, if you're like a Ron Swanson type of person and you use like all the bacon and eggs that you have, please do. I will 100% advocate for that. That needs a few more minutes. I'm making a mess.
All right, I'm doing it in another pan.
I still need to get new pans. I just haven't taken the plunge yet. Everybody gave me awesome advice.
Oh yeah, what have you been recommended?
So these are analog, and I've been using them for years, and I thought maybe try something else. People have said all clad, cast iron, Le Creuset, but I don't have Le Creuset money at the moment. So yeah, exactly.
This is $800. It is we call a franc pan. It is $800. You put one egg in. No, you put in half egg. You put half egg into the pan.
There you go. You put the egg white in one pan and the egg yolk in the other pan.
No, that is another $800.
Oh, I love it.
No, everybody should have one good cast iron. A cast iron is going to cost you like 15 to 20 bucks. Like they're not expensive. Get a Lodge. Like seriously, it's just iron. And as long as you take care of it, it will take care of you. It's been a little funny though, because I've got like my one cast iron here and I always overfill it with whatever I'm cooking. I think the best episode was the one that I made the seafood paella. And Yeah, I'm over here like the shrimp is like on the top and it's like making a pyramid and I'm just like trying to keep it in there and be like, close enough.
And then you realize that you can't stir it. I hate, like, I'll make salad, like just a big salad for dinner, and I have this bowl, and it was, I think they sold it as a serving bowl, but I'll just pile it with salad and stuff, and then you're like, oh, this is great, and then you go to like stir the dressing in, and you can't because it's just gonna go everywhere.
Yep. So somebody just commented on there that they inherited their Le Creuset, and I think that is in fact it. So save up your money for an entire like 10 years, go into indentured servitude if you have to, get a fancy Le Creuset, and then generations will benefit from it because of your sacrifice.
See? Everybody will thank you for the Le Creuset.
Honestly, the stuff with pans, I have gone through multiple brands. At the end of the day, I've never felt, I mean, a real difference from the expensive ones to the not expensive ones. I mean, there are definitely bad pans, but it's like whiskey. There's not, unless it's in a plastic bottle, it's not really bad anymore. It's just more like what works for you. And I feel like it's the same thing with cookingware. I mean, hey, this pan works just fine. I'm going to get bored of it in a year to 2 years, and if it doesn't cost me too much, don't feel that bad about tossing it.
Right, right. Well, and there's some of them, you know, like the non-stick and everything. They don't last that long, right? I don't think that very many of them are made, you know, especially with the non-stick coating. Which, like, the non-stick coating, you know, other people may not like, but it kind of works best for my use case. So, but they're not really meant to last long. And I only ever use like silicone or plastic on them, so. All right, that is looking good.
All right, I feel like we're getting there.
We're almost there. We're almost there. We've gone on this rustic journey together.
Can we do it in Italy someday? Because I really, really like to do this in Italy.
Please. I will be right there.
We'll do a special episode destination. All right,
There
what do
you
we got? Accept alcohol in plastic bottles that are ethyl versus methyl alcohol. So what I said, no whiskey, not in plastic. Check.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You don't want that. I mean, along those lines, I've had some really good wines that are like $5, $6, and they're, you know, rated 90 points or something. So, yeah, I probably couldn't tell the difference between, you know, a $100 bottle of wine and a $10 bottle of wine. So I just kind of let my eggs. See, if I tip the pan, the eggs are going to fall on the floor. So you're just going to have to take my word for it. There you go.
We trust you. Good job.
So I left my eggs kind of sunny side up. And
Yeah, I'm just going straight sunny side up.
all right. So I'm going to take some of my hash on my fine china that I found at an antique shop.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, I love it.
You weren't like teasing. You actually did.
What?
No, you actually did. You actually found fine china at an antique shop. Okay. No, I mean, I thought you were more like being like you're being euphemistic about Walmart or something.
Oh, no, I really did. Yeah. I was there and there was like 26 or 50. I can't remember. I've got kind of like the boho shabby chic deal going on. I've got a couple of different like patterns, but I've got teacups and plates and berry bowls. I didn't know berry bowls were a thing, but apparently they are.
You'll register for China for your wedding.
Exactly. Well, that's the thing. I couldn't find any that I liked, and so I just got some from an antique shop, and I love it.
That looks amazing. Wow. I need to catch up.
That's all right. Take your time.
Can you give me 3 minutes? In 3 minutes, I will have a complimentary.
You can have all the time you need, Bryson.
No, we all need to eat. You need to eat, I need to eat. I have hungry mouths that are waiting for dinner.
I gotta fuel that study session later tonight. And it's so good. I mean, look how much extra I have. So this'll take me. It'll take me through some lunches at work and stuff too. So it's a really good recipe to have leftovers and kind of meal prep with it.
Almost. So while you're waiting for me, which this is the first time that's happened with one of my unicorn chefs, what are your closing thoughts, Ellen?
Closing thoughts. I had a blast. This was so much fun. I wish I could do it all the time. And I appreciate you for having me on.
Well, thank you very much for coming on here.
Yeah.
And I look forward to your thoughts on Hack the Capital now that you know it's not another CTF or hackathon.
I know. I think it's great to have those kind of open discussions with our leaders, especially, in an industry kind of as new as ours, and especially as important as ours. Even especially now during the pandemic, it's important to have those open discussions. And there's a lot of people that I know and that I've seen that are trying to kind of break the stigma of hacker, being, the word hacker being synonymous with a criminal. So, I mean, I call myself a hacker all the time. So to kind of be able to break all that and get people working together is really important.
So Chloe Mesdagui and Brian, I'm going to mess up his name, Mechanic, they just launched an initiative in the last month called Hacking is Not a Crime. So it's on Twitter, Hack Not a Crime, at Hack Not a Crime. And so that's part of what they're trying to do is help work against that stigma.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Oh yeah, I almost didn't show you. I couldn't find my unicorn horn, but I wore my unicorn necklace for you today.
Oh, very cool. Do you have unicorn stickers?
I don't. So my friend, a good friend of mine who's a graphic designer, she created this little unicorn character, and I put it into a necklace.
Oh, so, all right. Well, I'd love to hear more about the character, but we definitely have to hook you up with some unicorn stickers. So
yeah, that would be amazing. I got room on
after the show. We will get my EA to send those over.
Perfect. I really did. I think I remembered it like yesterday that a couple years ago I went as like a unicorn for Halloween, or I just bought a horn, so I was trying to find it because I would have worn it on air. But
so you do that for Halloween. That's what I do for work.
There you go. I love it.
All right, I think I am ready to go here.
Perfect.
So I'm going to plate, and then we're going to do our joint picture presentation.
Sounds good. Yeah, I can't wait to see it. I hope everybody tags me on Twitter and lets me know how their recipes came out. I want to see what you did and what you did different, and there's so much you can do with this recipe.
So your Twitter tag is not your name, which makes it a little hard to find you.
Yeah. So
what is your Twitter tag?
It's Inverted Geek.
Why did you choose that?
Because life's more fun upside down. I like standing on my head and doing headstands and stuff. So different perspectives are always good.
We rarely do inversions, but we have in the past. Just because I would consider an inversion a more advanced pose. Something
no.
we did do some master poses on crow.
You know, I never got crow. I can do a headstand. I can do a handstand against a wall. I got to the point where my supervisors got pretty good that I could almost do a regular handstand, but.
All right, are you ready for our, hold on, give me a second here. Come on, Apple, there we go. All right, coming in. All right, we are ready. There we go.
Awesome.
Ellen, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Yeah.
Again, reminder, the charity that we are highlighting is Black Girls Can Code. Anything else you want to say, Ellen?
Just thanks so much for having me. Thanks for everybody that tuned in. I hope you enjoyed the recipe and everything. Let's hang out sometime in real life.
Looking forward to it. Take care.
All right, you too. Thanks.
How do I stop recording? I have this problem every single time.